Hello everyone, welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish video. In today's Doctor Who Big Finish video, me and Luke are continuing our review on the Big Finish 60th anniversary celebrations Once and Future. In this review we're taking a look at the Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50, containing David Tennant, Michelle Gomez and the Paternoster gang. So if you haven't checked out any of our previous reviews on the Once and Future saga, then please do. I'll leave a link in the description below to those videos. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to past Ben and Luke.
So David Tennant's coming back to our screens in just a couple of months now. But we've got a little treat as Big Finish fans before that, haven't we?
Yeah.
The Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50. And it's been a while since he's done a Big Finish now, it feels like.
A year, isn't it? Since, Classic Companions, so it feels like a nice little full circle moment, and it's like the last thing he recorded, well, to be released while he was in the lockdown stuff, wasn't it? With Dalek Universe, Out of Time, River Song, Luther Arkwright.
It's funny listening to the special features and seeing it as a little, piece of history in a sense, really.
Yes.
In how, that was in a way not too long ago, and yet it was another life at the same time, with it being recorded at the height of COVID and the lockdowns and everything. This was David Tennant out in his shed, wasn't he, doing these recordings. So that's rather bizarre to think about, really. And yeah, with this, I think it's fair to say we have the best Once and Future so far.
Yeah, this is the one what I don't want to say he's got the ball rolling, but we were excited with Two's Company.
Yeah.
Where it was sort of leading, and I think this has answered some things, but it's given us more questions as well.
But it feels like questions in a good way.
Yeah.
It feels like these are questions we are meant to be asking, not simply questions of confusion, so when he regenerates, does he keep his clothes, or do they change as well?
The sonic changes as well.
Yeah, we've now got that answered here as well. It feels like there's a bit more clarity of vision with this one now. We know where things are going, or at least Big Finish know where things are going. It feels like there's a plan in place with this story. David's not the only Scott in this one. We have Michelle Gomez and Neve McIntosh as well. So Missy and the 10th Doctor. Interesting combo, isn't it?
I think this is the joy, and this is why we should have these anniversary things, because it gives us stuff that we can't have on screen. And combos that Big Finish use, week in, week out, really. And I think the chemistry between those two, because I think we get I don't want to say a very different 10th Doctor, but we get sort of a bit catty.
I mean, he's a 10th Doctor before he ever was the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
For this, it's taking place during the Time War. He's degenerating up and down his timeline, and now suddenly something has happened which has forced him to turn into a future face. And we don't actually get that until 14 minutes,
yeah, because we get 14 minutes of the lovely Stephen Noonan, which I think sets it up very, very nicely. It's a great way of putting the first, and even Tim as well gets a nice little bit at the end. It's a nice way of including the first three Doctors without having their own stories in this saga, really.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, a good 14-minute chunk of the first Doctor here. And it feels very right for the story. It is a War of the Worlds homage of sorts, if you couldn't tell by the cover. I mean, even more than a homage in a way, because it's very metatextual. It is literally part of the story.
Yeah, Missy's a super fan.
Yeah. And so with that, it feels like the first Doctor fits very well in that world.
Yes. Yeah.
But also the 10th Doctor does as well. It's this wonderful meshing of old and new. And also it feels like the story changes gear when that switch happens. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like a unnatural shift at all.
And you're not
some
being shortchanged of David because the story's about an hour and 9 minutes or whatever. So you're still getting an hour of Tennant, really.
yeah, you get a good chunk of him, and he doesn't waste a second of it. And it is all wonderful there. I mean, it also feels like a nice inversion with him and Missy of what we had with Capaldi and Sim in
Yes.
the Series 10 finale. So it's not, I think people on Twitter has referred to it as like the husband-wife swap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And certainly this is very much playing on the way Missy is during Series 8 in particular, I'd say.
Yeah.
And
This is pure evil Missy, I would say.
yeah. But not just that, more full-on flirtatious
Yes.
Missy.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. And also, it feels more like a Moffat story than an RTD story, because not only have you got Missy, you got the Paternoster game, but just the way the story plays out, it feels more like it's that vein, that era being homaged here, as opposed to a 10th Doctor story, which I'm fine with, because again, it's an anniversary special where things are getting mixed up a lot here between different Doctors. So take full advantage of that, I say, and I'm happy that this story does.
Yeah, and I think having the Paternoster gang really enables that. Because I think they work really well with the 10th Doctor, and how they're set up in the story is great, and how they're there makes total sense.
Yeah, and they also get to provide different perspectives as well, because they start the story very much separated. And so, they're already in the middle of this adventure, really, that the 10th Doctor's crashing in on. It's not a case of it having to set them up with a mystery as well as the Doctor. He's arriving halfway through when they've already gone through some stuff. So they're treated basically like characters in most other Doctor Who stories, really, where they've already lived lives. And I think that's nice to have that feeling of things don't all have to start when the Doctor arrives. Things have been in motion for a little while with this one. And dare I say, Strax near his best.
Yeah, I love the bit we get and how he's introduced that he has this idea of building a society underneath the city and being king of it, really.
Yeah. And there's wonderful jokes throughout as well, particularly one involving Sontaran ships being round.
Yes, and don't roll away.
Yeah, there's wonderful bits of humour throughout like that I think works really well with Strax. So it's hard to say like when he's at his very best, because I feel like he's so constantly on a high, really. And yeah, there's so many laugh out loud moments, but this has a few particularly good ones, and I think bounces well off of Tennant as well. I mean, he's brilliant opposite everyone.
Yes.
Right. And it is funny listening to the extras and hearing him fanboy out over the fact that he's got a story of the Paternoster gang, a group of people who didn't come along until after he was on the show. But he kept watching it because he's a fan.
Yeah.
Which is just wonderful stuff. So I think this really has a lot going for it. And certainly
I think the direction it goes as well, it sets everything up you've wanted for over the past few months with it.
Better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think just the ideas it has, because I think it's a nice promotion of Big Finish's War of the Worlds as well. It feels like hey, you can buy this as well if you enjoy this. Check out our version of it.
Yeah. I mean, also War of the Worlds is, almost the father of modern science fiction in a way, or maybe perhaps grandfather at this point. But yeah, it's certainly where a shift started to go in the direction of science fiction, really.
Yeah.
And what could be possible. And so I think it's nice that Doctor Who gets to pay homage to that in its 60th year. It's done it before with Time Lash.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other places as well that I can't name off the top of my head. But yeah, it's nice how that gets folded into this anniversary, and having that be with the 10th Doctor as well, where David's actually read the original novel, and listening to his insights on the extras, because ultimately, while you're mainly buying this for the story, if you got the special edition, you're getting a lot of extras with that. I think it's about 40 minutes worth.
Okay.
And so it's wonderful hearing him have a little talk about that as well. So, yeah, and I mean, he mentions well enough about the fact that, this alien comes along and everyone's freaked out by it for a few days, but then suddenly it just becomes normal and people move on with their lives, which, I mean, given the time that this was recorded, is a somewhat fitting commentary on humanity to have. So
Yeah.
kudos to H.G. Wells for predicting that one. But yeah, I mean, it's not just predicting, it's human nature. We've been doing it with plenty of things over the years. It's just one that we've been either fortunate or unfortunate enough to live through, depending on how you look at that. Yeah. Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50. Easily my favourite. And
Yeah, I think they've just got better and better as they've gone on. For me, I would say.
I would say mostly for me, but I'd swap around Genius for War and Artist at the end of time. I think I enjoyed Artist a little bit more than Genius. But yeah, there's definitely been a good progression here, which bodes well for the future.
Yeah, I mean, we joked about Two's Company, but that got the ball rolling, and I think this has just really hit its stride now. And it's made me excited for the next installment of it.
Yeah. I mean, Two's Company, one of the things we said in that review was that it's a bit too short, because it was about 55 minutes. It's going all right, and then suddenly it feels like the ending's a bit rushed. What would you say about Martian Invasion of Planetoid 50? Because the runtime is the longest of the series. How would you say it fares in that regard?
I think it balances everything well. I think having that 14-minute first Doctor section's great. It's sort of segmented, isn't it? It's sort of in character introductions and journeys, isn't it? Really, it's setting up.
There's lots of things for it to cut away to.
Yeah,
you never feel lost.
Yeah, you don't feel lost, but it's jumping around for the sake of it. I think everything has a purpose, and it almost feels quite meticulous, like with the shopping list, with what it ticks off and how it does it.
Yeah. You never feel like there's something being forced in there, which occasionally
you get in the early
case.
releases.
Yeah. This feels all very well planned out, but at the same time natural. It doesn't feel planned out, but it's well planned out. So I think runtime wise, it never drags, just like its length.
I wanted more.
Yeah, that's it. Really. If anything, again, the conclusion is probably the weakest part.
Yeah, it does seem like, oh, we've solved it, but I need to take the problem away.
Yeah,
and I don't think
it's very much is that it ending.
Yeah, and there's not really a goodbye, I would say, with like the Paternoster. There's like a drop off, and it's like, okay, we're off now.
Well, I suppose it's just on with the Once a Future Adventure, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Where we're going next, so I suppose. Should we quickly give it a rating and then dive into some spoilers? Because, like I say, exciting developments. I'd probably say an 8.
I'd go 8.5.
Ah, you're going a little bit extra.
I was thinking maybe 9 or 9. But then I'm like, well, we've got Eccleston and Warner, and I feel like that's got to be a higher there.
I feel like it's still got its issues. I think, I'm more confident about Once a Future now that we have seen this strong progression. But I don't think it's perfect by any means. I think it does still have its flaws. So, yeah, I think 8 is a fair one for this. Right, so I suppose click away now if you don't want to get spoiled, if you've not listened yet, because we are going to talk about 3, 2, 1. the fact that the Master has also been struck by this degeneration weapon.
Yeah.
That's the big reveal for this one. That's certainly something people predicted. I think either right from when this was announced, or perhaps more so when the Lumiate was revealed to be in the next story with the Ninth and Unbound Doctors. So, I mean, how was your reaction to that reveal?
I guess because of seeing the fear, it was just nice to have that confirmation. I just wish they did a little bit more with it in the story.
I hope they get to the point of doing that, but
because
I know what you mean.
It would have been lovely to have had like Jacoby then, have Sasha Dewan. Like that would have been such a nice little freak out moment. Because obviously having that sort of degeneration thing, anything's possible. We can be bouncing around,
Yeah, it certainly does feel like we're a bit limited with master options at the moment.
I mean, having McQueen would be lovely.
Yeah, so even if it's just for a little cameo, I think it'd be nice to have him in there. But yeah, I mean, it looks like we've got Lumiere next time, and then hopefully it continues on and we get War Master, get Jacoby, probably alongside McGann for the final one, which would kind of be a shame because we've had that combination. But at the same time, I do still want Jacoby in there somewhere, and it feels right for him to be there in the final one. Especially if it's Eighth Doctor, because they're both presumably the one who got struck by the weapon. They're both in the Time War. So, yeah, we'll see where things go, but certainly intriguing possibilities have been presented by this. And we also got the tease of, he needs to head to find the Time Lord Immemorial and then
the Union.
Yeah, reach the Union. Which, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sort of feels like a Chib and Alira way of doing exposition. Similar to Jack with the lone Cyberman. It's stuff that, it gets the information out there, but is it necessarily the best way? That was sort of one of my...
It's signposting a lot.
Yeah. It's still following that, side quest thing of do this, and then you've got to go do this next time. It feels like an awkward way of progressing the plot, but at this point at least it feels like there is a plot to progress.
Yeah.
Rather than just, this diamond image in my head. I know the monk was involved somehow. But it's like, we as the audience don't know that. There's no clues for us to follow or pick up on. At least none. I mean, maybe we're just being dim. Maybe we will get to the finale and there'll be clues all along.
Yeah, there'll be references, yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't feel like there's much there for us to grip onto in terms of this mystery so far. It's just instead more been, let's have fun with the concept, which, fair enough, but
yeah,
it could have had more fun stories, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to go back and re-listen to these, though.
I think, hindsight would be a wonderful thing with these, I think.
Yeah, once it's all completed. I mean, that's certainly been the case for a few series so far, like Dalek Universe, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and 40 as well, so... fingers crossed that is the case. Things are looking up for Once and Future. Any last words?
It's brilliant, and it was just joy having more Tennant.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? That's what a lot of us were here for, listening to David Tennant again. It's like, it's an appetizer, isn't it, for the 60th?
Yeah. And this was done before we even knew David was the Doctor, before he even knew.
Yeah, that was going to be a thing, really. Before Russell even thought of the idea, because it was before that fateful lockdown stream, wasn't it?
Yeah, the watch-along.
Watch-along, yeah. So, crazy to think about that in hindsight. But before we were even doing many of these videos together.
Yeah.
Is that all we have left to say now?
I think it is. If you've enjoyed this, then please do like and subscribe. And if you haven't checked out any of the previous Once and Future videos we've done, they will be in the description down below, so you can see how we've progressed. And yeah, we'll see you next time for the probably the most anticipated one for us, Christopher Eccleston and David Warner.
Yeah, in Time Lord Immemorial.
So we shall see you in that review very soon.
Take
Bye-bye,
care,
everyone.
everyone.